We're only 3.5 days away from UFC 294, and it's time for me to give my predictions and breakdown for every single fight on this card, which is just stacked from top to bottom. There's so much up-and-coming talent that's on this card, and I just can't wait. So, guys, if you just want to hear my particular take on one of these fights, make sure to check the timestamps in the description, and I'll have everything there. But without further ado, let's waste no time. Let's get right into the first one, and that is a highly anticipated bout between Mike Breeden and Anshul Jubli, who is the pride of India. The King of Lions is his nickname. And this is a very easy pick, but I'm very excited for this guy because I've had a lot of people in my chat telling me how good Anshul Jubli is. And to be fair, I did miss his UFC debut. I know he went on that path to the UFC that they did in Asia, that tournament. And I rewatched his first fight in the UFC, and I'm convinced that this guy is going to go out there and mop the floor with Mike Breeden, who is literally 0-4 in the UFC. And if we look at Mike Breeden's record, he's not only 0-4, this is one of Terrence McKinney's cans that Terrence McKinney is able to go out there and knock out in the first round. This is a guy that's getting the shit beat out of him by Alexander Hernandez, who only can beat up cans at this point in his career. I saw an Anshul Jubli, okay, who can impose his will, and you guys know how important that is to me. That is the number one separating thing between guys that are unranked and just floating out there in the rankings in the ether, and the people that are actually on their way on a mission to be a ranked opponent or to be someone that's ranked. And Anshul Jubli's got really good grappling, okay? He marches his opponents down. He's got a good, regular base set of skills on the feet, which is, it's orthodox, but it works. He's got some decent jabs. He's got some decent kicks, but his game plan is going to be to march Mike Breeden down up against the fence, to take him down. And once it hits the mat, he's very dangerous. He's got great ground and pound. He's got a really good ability to transition into good positions. And I'm going to pick Anshul Jubli to absolutely destroy Mike Breeden. And I think he's going to TKO him on the ground or submit him within the first couple of rounds. I'm impressed with Anshul Jubli, and I'll be rooting for him. But let's get on to the next fight. Once again, he knows how to impose his will. Great grappler. Has a game plan that he sticks to. March forward. Take someone down. I'm picking him. On to the next fight. The highly anticipated red-bearded Dagestani Sharabutdin Magomedov. He's going to be fighting low IQ Bruno Silva, who in my opinion kind of had his soul and chin snatched away from Alex Pereira, or by Alex Pereira, in their fight in which, he was able to test Pereira, he was able to eat the left hooks, but ever since then, we've seen him get knocked down and subbed by Gerald Meerschaert. We've seen him get knocked down in the first round and subbed by Brendan Allen. Without his toughness, without that granite chin that he once had, I just think that he's only got a puncher's chance, and his IQ in the cage is horrible, man. I mean, he had the silliest game plan I've ever seen against Brendan Allen. Went out there and walked Brendan Allen down. Yeah, he kind of imposed his will, but there's a difference between imposing your will with a good style of game plan and just, throwing caution to the wind and slugging it out like you're in a bar brawl. I mean, there was just a level of urgency that was totally unnecessary in that Brendan Allen fight. And I think he's going to get knocked the fuck out by Sharabutdin Magomedov, who I'm not that impressed with. And this is why I think he hasn't looked that good in his recent fights, because he has knocked a couple of guys out. He's got this flashy, Zabit-like heavy kicking style. He's unorthodox. He's getting a lot of hype. I think that the reason why he hasn't looked that good in his last few fights outside of the UFC is because when these guys know that they're right on the verge of making it to the big show, the UFC, I think that these highly anticipated prospects, and I always kind of write them off and say they're overrated, they're overhyped, he didn't look that good before the UFC. I think it's because these guys leave a lot in the tank. I don't think they actually go out there trying to put on a statement. I think they're just gunning for the win, and that's it. As long as I get the win, let me play it safe. And I'll get that UFC contract. They're like a 30% Usman out there. You know what I mean? And I think that I think he's been holding back a little bit, and he's going to go out here trying to make a statement. And I'm guessing that he's probably training harder than he ever has. He's had a lot of time off. He hasn't fought for like a year, and I'm sure that he's been leveling up big time. He's 29 years old. Bruno Silva, terrible fight IQ. questionable chin at this point in his career. I think he's going to get caught with a head kick or maybe a knee. I could even see him getting countered by a big, right hook or something from Sharabutdin. But my point is, I'm picking Shara the Bullet to knock this guy out, even though he hasn't looked that great. But we're really going to find out where he stands, because we're going to have to compare him to people like GM3 and guys like Brendan Allen on the feet. So that's my prediction for this fight. I'm confident Bruno Silva's getting knocked out in this one. I think that if you're not impressed with the Bullet, you'll be impressed with him this time, because he ain't going to hold back and he's going to put on a statement. So let's get into the next fight. Nathaniel Wood versus Mohammad Naimov. Guys, Mohammad Naimov, the only thing this man has done is he knocked out Jamie Mullarkey in the second round this summer. And I think that was his UFC debut. There's not a whole lot on him. To be fair, I don't really know a whole lot about his grappling, but I'm trusting in Nathaniel Wood to win this fight because he's got so much more UFC experience. He's coming off of 2 decent wins, very close fights over Charles Jourdain and Andre Fili. And Mohammad Naimov, in my opinion, even though he's going to have a little bit of a size advantage, he's 5'9". I think Nathaniel Wood's about 5'7". Nathaniel Wood's been up against these long, rangy strikers with long reaches. Andre Fili has a 74-inch reach. He was able to drop Nathaniel Wood. Charles Jourdain, even though he has the same reach as Nathaniel Wood, he is much taller than him and a very long, rangy guy that's got extremely high output. And I think that these guys are a little bit trickier than Mohammad Naimov, who, in my opinion, is just he's just kind of like a big, blocky, mediocre guy in that division. I don't know. I'm not that impressed with him. I'm not sold on him at all. Nathaniel Wood's got really good leg kicks, wicked fast leg kicks. He's a great grappler. He's well-rounded. I think what it boils down to is Nathaniel Wood, in my opinion, isn't going to lose to anyone at featherweight until he really cracks deep into like the top 15. I don't see Mohammad Naimov beating him. And now that I'm looking at Mohammad Naimov's first ever fight in front of UFC fans' eyes on the Dana White Contender Series, he lost that fight. He got taken down 3 times. Let me check the control time on this to see if it's anything significant. I mean, yeah, he's been controlled before on the ground for multiple minutes on the Dana White Contender Series. I'm not picking Mohammad Naimov in this fight. Like, again, this is just an opportunity where he's going to have to prove himself. But until then, Nathaniel Wood is one of the better prospects that's on the come up at featherweight. And I do think he has potential to be ranked very, very soon. So I'm going to go with Nathaniel Wood. He's too well-rounded. He's too slick on the feet. He's going to be at a little bit of a size disadvantage, but that's the only issue that he's going to have in this fight. But other than that, I think his skills are going to clear that of Naimov's. So let's get on to the next fight. Abu Azaitar versus Sedriques Dumas. I'm going to be going with Sedriques Dumas, okay? And that's because Abu Azaitar has been one of the most inactive fighters you could ever even think of, all right? Let's look at this guy's record. Let me show you how active Abu Azaitar has been. Don't confuse him with his brother, Ottman Azaitar. In the UFC, this guy's had 2 fights. One, his last fight was in 2021. He got knocked out by Marc-Andre Barriou, who he gassed out against and basically just got absolutely demolished in the 3rd and final round. And Marc-Andre Barriou is all right. I think he's probably even better than Sedriques Dumas, but this was 2 years ago, and he got completely destroyed in that fight. And then, of course, we have Abu Azaitar's fight before that was against Vitor Miranda in 2018, all right? On the Shogun and Anthony Smith card, where Anthony Smith landed a big dirty elbow. This is long before Anthony Smith fought for the title, bro. I'm picking Sedriques Dumas. He's not even that great, right? We saw him get submitted by Josh Fremd, but he's got hustle, man, and I really like that. Even though his last win was over Cody Brundage, and I remember cringing at the commentary because DC and the other commentators were kind of glazing Sedriques Dumas a little bit because they were talking about how amazing his grappling looked because he got subbed in his previous fight against Josh Fremd, and here he was controlling, a guy in Cody Brundage who is probably one of the lowest IQ fighters in the history of the sport. A guy that just easily wilts and gives up as well. They were treating him like he was George St. Pierre, Sedriques Dumas, whereas I think it was just a serious decrease in level of competition. But one thing that I like from Sedriques Dumas is the fact that we saw his weakness get exposed, which was the grappling. He seems to be working on it. He has hustle. He has good cardio. His striking is pretty sloppy. I think he actually is a little bit undersized for the 185-pound division. But I like his hustle, and I think that he's getting better, and I'm picking him based on that. He's probably dedicating himself a whole lot more to MMA. I don't know what the fuck Abu Azaitar has been doing, but it hasn't been MMA first. This is just some kind of I don't know what the hell is going on with this guy. Someone fill me in. Why is he not fighting? But he's old. He's 37 years old. There's no fucking way I'm picking Abu Azaitar to win this fight. Sedriques Dumas is going to get it done. I think he's going to take Abu Azaitar down, and I think he's going to break him with the grappling, and I think he's just going to tire him out and win via hunger. All right, so let's get on to the next fight. Victor Henry and Javid Basharat. All right, now I've been talking a little bit of smack against the Basharat bros. I've been saying that these guys are your typical hyped up, overhyped UK prospects. And I know that he's, Afghan. He's not actually originally from the UK, but he kind of represents the UK. I'm going with Basharat, and I think he is going to go out there and absolutely decision Victor Henry, who is a really good striker, who's very solid on the feet. I mean, we've seen him outstrike guys like Raoni Barcelos in a very high volume, high activity style of fight on the feet. But I think that Javid Basharat is a guy that can impose his will, and he is very dangerous on the ground. Okay, I will give him that. His striking is a little bit slow twitch, but he's got a long reach. He's got some height over these other bantamweights. And when it comes to his grappling, there's a reason why this guy's undefeated. It's because he knows how to impose his will. And even though he doesn't get a lot of finishes on the ground, he does beat people up. Right now, he's kind of like a buffed up version of Anshul Jubli. And I think that he is going to take down Victor Henry, who's much older than him. And I think he's just going to wash him out on the ground. I think he's going to control him, and I think he's going to hurt him on the ground and pound, look for submissions. It'll be interesting on the feet, but Victor Henry's getting older, and he hasn't really had any impressive showing since that fight with Raoni Barcelos, which was, I think, in like 2021. Let me just check to make sure. His last win was over Tony Gravely, which was a split decision exactly on the Jan versus Devilashvili card. I'm thinking that Javid Basharat's about to absolutely style on this guy when it comes to getting takedowns and just controlling him. So it might be a little bit boring. And even though I've crapped on Javid Basharat's style for a while, he is very good and he knows how to impose his will. And Victor Henry, the older man, I think he's like 8-9 years older. I can't expect this guy's grappling to look that much better than it did in his last outing, in which he got taken down and controlled a couple of times in that fight. So on to the next one. Well, the UAE's got a big tractor coming their way, and that's Trevor Peek, who sent out a chilling message to Muhammad Yahya earlier today. And I'm going to play this message. Just caution, this is a very chilling message from Tractor Trevor. Check it out.
I'm here, Muhammad. Your sleep therapist has arrived. This is my land now, brother. This land belongs to me. You cannot escape the inevitable. You cannot escape fate. And you can't stop me. I'm coming for you, man. God, I'm coming for you.
I'm going to be going with Trevor Peek to win this fight by a KO via breaking Muhammad Yahya in the first or second round. I think he's going to break him in the second. He reminds me of a more striking heavy version of Benoit Saint Denis, but he's even crazier. He has absolutely no care in the world when it comes to him getting hit. Complete reckless abandon, wild haymaking hammer fists on the feet. And I think that this Muhammad Yahya is about to be in for a rude awakening. I haven't really seen anything that stands off the board other than I guess he's going to try to impose his will with the grappling. But I've seen Trevor Peek stuff takedowns, and I've seen him get out of really bad positions from Shepi Mariscal, who is also granite chinned, who was able to eat big shots and land big shots of his own, and is also a pretty wild fighter who's also a savage. And Trevor Peek showed a lot of decent grappling and scrambles in that fight. He's strong, very, very strong. You have to have a certain level of durability in order to fuck with Trevor Peek. Or you have to at least prove to me that you can out-grapple someone that is very dangerous or actually worth a damn. So until I see Muhammad Yahya go in there and beat someone like Trevor Peek, I ain't going to pick it to happen. And I think Trevor Peek is actually underrated. I just think Shepi Mariscal, the guy that tested him, is a tough motherfucker. And I think he's very dangerous. And I think he's got a granite chin. And I can't trust Muhammad Yahya to have that going for him. So if Yahya wins this fight, he's going to have to make it really boring. But I think Trevor Peek, I think he's just going to rock him early. And I think it's going to be too much for him. This is a fucking really tough test in your UFC debut. He's going to be nervous already, and he's got the most wild fighter he could ever imagine going in there. And Trevor Peek doesn't strike me as the guy that's going to have nerves just because he's in a different place, just because he's in Abu Dhabi. He strikes me as the guy that's going to actually turn it up a notch. Mohammad Mokaev versus Tim Elliott. I am not that impressed with Mohammad Mokaev. He's good for his age, but this whole talk about him being the youngest champion, that ship has already sailed. All right, he's not even close to getting to the belt right now. And he almost got his knee torn apart in his last fight. Apparently, that injury wasn't as bad as some people expected it to be. We were talking about the potential chance of him being out for like a whole year. Even though he wasn't out for a whole year, that injury, that knee is torn up, right? He's almost been submitted twice in the UFC. Tim Elliott is basically a better grappler than anyone Mohammad Mokaev has faced other than Cody Durden, who Mohammad Mokaev knocked down with a flying knee and choked out in the first round. But other than that, other than his UFC debut, and I almost can't look too deeply into an early finish like that because, again, it's like, is he able to do this in the second, third round? Or was that just like a really good moment for him? He did beat Cody Durden, but we didn't get to see Cody Durden not get hit by the flying knee. I understand that sounds a little bit silly, but I almost feel like Cody Durden would beat Mohammad Mokaev if they were to fight again. I really do think that. I'm going to be going with Mohammad Mokaev to win this one, and I think he's going to get it done like 29-28, 30-27. I don't think he looks that good on the feet. He looked real wacky and just unpolished against Malcolm Gordon. There's no game plan, in my opinion. Like, he's not a guy that imposes his will. He's one of these floating around the outside, throwing these wild spinning attacks and kicks at range and darting in with naked punches, and I don't see a polished striking game, all right? He's a good grappler. He's got good hustle when it comes to the grappling, right? He was able to get the sub in the last 30 seconds against Jafel Filho, who, as I said, almost tore his knee up. So you got to think that's maybe going to be affecting him a little bit, even though he wasn't out for a year and a half like everyone was saying he was going to be out for a year and a half. His knee kind of got torn up. But he showed some hustle at the end of that fight to get a finish, to leave with a statement. But again, I haven't really seen him look that good. Went to a decision with Charles Johnson. Again, looked unpolished against Malcolm Gordon. Got his back taken against Malcolm Gordon. Tim Elliott, he's not that dangerous on the feet, but he's an old, crafty vet that has a couple tricks up his sleeve, that's got a better IQ than all these other guys that Mohammad Mokaev's been fighting. And I think he's going to survive early on because I just don't see Mohammad Mokaev getting a finish on the feet unless he lands some crazy flying knee. And I think Tim Elliott's going to be expecting all of that. And I just see Mohammad Mokaev winning this via, I don't even know, man. He's just going to pull it off, I guess, just by out-muscling Tim Elliott on the ground. Just a strength advantage, a youth advantage. And if it weren't for this whole, hype that he's getting from the UK, and it's actually more from the UK than it is from Dagestan, I think that we would just look at him a little bit differently. So I'm going to be going with Mohammad Mokaev 29-28. Lackluster decision win. And yeah, that's that. Let's get on to the next fight. The Mole is back, and he ain't called the Mole for no reason. Muin Gafurov is going to be fighting Said Nurmagomedov. All right? And listen, this is a big step up in competition for the Mole. I believe in his ability to impose his will. I think he can make this a really tough, gritty fight. Even though I was impressed with his performance against, who did he fight? John Castaneda on the Albazi and Kai Kara-France card. Again, just solid striking, good everywhere, knows how to impose his will, decent power. Said Nurmagomedov is just not someone I'm going to pick against. And I actually rewatched Said Nurmagomedov's fight with Jonathan Martinez, and I'm actually impressed how he wasn't wobbling and hobbling around on the leg kicks. He was able to deal with them all right. And I think he won that fight. I don't know why they gave it to Jonathan Martinez. I almost feel like it was just a pity decision win because they were happy that he was able to get through the adversity and work his way back up to his feet and start landing some pitter-pat shots. Like, I think Said Nurmagomedov got robbed in that fight, okay? And that's really, really telling and revealing because we know how good Jonathan Martinez is, especially on the feet. And Said Nurmagomedov kind of styled on him a little bit, you know what I mean? And Said Nurmagomedov's just got this really nasty ability to change ranges like that between the striking and the grappling. And that's why we see these effortless submissions where he's cracking guys on the feet. He's discombobulating them a little bit. He's giving them a lot to think about. Spinning wheel kicks, spinning back kicks, head kicks. nasty step-in jabs. And I really do think that he's going to crack Gafurov, and I think he's going to hurt him. Gafurov's going to maybe turn his back to him, have a lapse of judgment, and I think Said's going to jump on his neck and submit him in the first or second round. I just think that Said Nurmagomedov's fought a better level of competition. He's more experienced, and he is a guy that is extremely tricky to deal with on the feet. I don't see there being a path to victory other than a puncher's chance for Gafurov. Said Nurmagomedov has every single advantage, and he's a finisher, and I think he's going to submit him in the first or second. So let's get on to the next one. Ikram Aliskerov versus Warley Alves, okay? This is a really tough one. I'm going to go with Ikram Aliskerov, and I think he's going to sub Warley Alves or knock him out in the first round. Yes, I understand Warley Alves is taking this on short notice, and we're talking about how Usman might be refreshed and Volk might be refreshed. Ikram Aliskerov, even though I was going to pick a Mavov to beat him, he's a monster, man. I mean, this guy's grappling is unreal. He's disposed of everyone he's taken on with relative ease on the ground. He was able to submit Dennis Tululin in the first, and Dennis Tululin's not that good, but I rewatched his fight in the Dana White Contender Series, twisted this guy up in a pretzel within the first couple of minutes with a Kimura, and I just think that Warley Alves, come on, man. Like, this guy ain't got shit on Ikram Aliskerov. This guy is your typical run-of-the-mill NPC fighter. Ikram Aliskerov is definitely someone that's got some of the best grappling in this division. And I think he's going to go out there and make easy work of Warley Alves. And I think he can knock him out with the threat of the takedown too. I know he knocked out Phil Hawes, which looked impressive, but Phil Hawes has a glass chin. Warley Alves is going to have to be dealing with the threat of the takedown. Warley Alves has been out-grappled many times. This is the guy that submitted Colby Covington, but that was about a decade ago. And that's basically the only thing he has going for him. Okay, so Warley Alves is going to get destroyed by Ikram Aliskerov. I think he's going to get taken down, and I think he's going to get twisted into a pretzel in the first round. I'm going to go with Ikram Aliskerov. First round finish, maybe a first round KO as well. That could always be possible. That right hand he landed on Phil Hawes was a thing of beauty. So I'm thinking this guy's striking might be a little bit buffed up as well. On to the next one. Johnny Walker versus Magomed Ankalaev. Guys, I'm going to be going with Magomed Ankalaev to win this fight, either by decision or KO. Now, I've been saying things like, Johnny Walker didn't get cracked by big shots against Anthony Smith, and, I was picking Anthony Smith to beat him, and I know that Johnny Walker actually looked pretty good, but at the end of the day, man, there wasn't a whole lot going on in the Anthony Smith fight. After about 6 or 7 leg kicks from Johnny Walker, Smith was fucking trudging around the octagon and fucking plodding forward like an old man. There was absolutely no movement to his game. There was no variety. It was the fact that Johnny Walker couldn't finish Anthony Smith, looking at the version of Anthony Smith that he had in front of him for 2.5 rounds, is pathetic. I'm sorry, it's pathetic. And I know Johnny Walker is a guy that has been knocked out many times, and he tries to take a safe approach, and he's looked better with his grappling, and he knocked out Paul Craig, but it's just that, listen, if he doesn't get one of these goofy goober style of KOs that he got over Paul Craig, or the one that he got over Ryan Spann where he hit him with back of the head shots, I don't think he's going to beat Magomed Ankalaev, who, yeah, we've seen him get dropped once by Thiago Santos, but Anthony Smith was, again, hobbling around, trudging forward like a snail in that fight. And Walker played it safe. And Ankalaev's a guy that's so much faster than Anthony Smith. And he did beat Jan Blachowicz. I don't care what anyone says. He beat Jan Blachowicz. He outstruck him clearly in the first round. He got his legs torn up. But that's Jan Blachowicz. I know Johnny Walker's leg kicks are strong. They're powerful. And he was doubling up. And his leg kicks were looking fast. But if Anthony Smith was getting kicked by Jan Blachowicz in that fight, Alex Pereira, one of these guys, he would have been on the ground. He would have been toast. So Johnny Walker's got some good leg kicks, but they're not on the same level of Jan. Why? I don't know. Jan Blachowicz just has these fucking steel pillars for legs. Why am I hyped up? It's just I'm passionate because I think that I think he's being overrated. I think he's beating guys that aren't that great. Paul Craig's decent. Okay, I'll give him that. Johnny Walker's always got a shot to knock someone out. He could knock out an elephant. He's that explosive, okay? He's that wild. But I think that Magomed Ankalaev's just too high fight IQ. He's too smart to get into one of these goofy goober exchanges. And I think he's going to be playing it smart. I think he's going to be surgical. And I think he's going to be out there at range leg kicking with Johnny Walker because Magomed Ankalaev's got nasty low kicks too. And he's actually pretty good at defending kicks despite his legs being torn up against Jan Blachowicz. He's got really good kicks, okay? And good kicking defense. Don't believe me? Just watch every single one of his fights leading up to that one with Jan Blachowicz. He's really good at checking leg kicks, and he was actually hurting Anthony Smith in their fight by checking the kicks. He damaged Anthony Smith's legs more than Johnny Walker, and he didn't even have to throw more than a couple. And again, it's going to boil down to this. Anthony Smith did land big shots on the chin of Johnny Walker, but that was kind of in the second round. But Anthony Smith, again, his legs were already toast. He was slow. He was like a snail, and there wasn't a whole lot going on underneath his feet. Magomed Ankalaev's a southpaw, all right? Magomed Ankalaev's extremely fast. He made Jan Blachowicz look like a slowpoke, all right? Just look at the first round between Magomed and Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz didn't do fuck all to Magomed. Magomed was teeing off on him. Was looking like he was that's one of the fastest light heavyweights I've ever seen, actually. And he's got a grappling advantage, and he can shoot takedowns. And Johnny Walker's been taken down by Ion Cutelaba. He's been taken down by Nikita Krylov. And I understand that he was able to beat Ion Cutelaba and reverse the position, but Magomed Ankalaev's a lot bigger and better than Ion Cutelaba. I think that there's too much going against Johnny Walker, and I think that if someone as fast as Magomed Ankalaev tags Walker when he's got his base underneath him, I think he's going to put him away. Again, Anthony Smith landed some good shots. I was expecting him to knock Walker out, but again, we didn't know how poor Anthony Smith's leg kick defense was and how I don't even know how to say it, how paper thin his legs were. All right. I think Magomed Ankalaev isn't going to be wilting to some low kicks, or he's not going to be rendered to some hobbly-cobbly guy. I don't think leg kicks are really one of his Achilles heel. I think that's just Jan Blachowicz that was doing that to him. I think Magomed's going to go out there. I think he's going to look insanely fast compared to any of Johnny Walker's past few opponents. And I think Johnny Walker's a guy that plays it safe these days. And because he plays it safe these days, he doesn't really take a lot of risks. And I think he's going to get countered with a big shot. And I think Magomed Ankalaev is going to put him out cold. All right. Southpaw, extremely fast, great kicks, great leg kick defense, good grappling, better grappling than Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker's got size. He's got a little bit of a power advantage, but that's kind of it, man. And this is a massive step up in competition. Anthony Smith, Ion Cutelaba, low IQ Ion. That's already a step up in competition that he had from Ion to Smith. But Smith, he's just older and slow. And the fact that Walker didn't finish him is actually kind of sad, looking at the version of Anthony Smith that was in there with him. Magomed's going to toast this guy. All right, now, I could see Walker winning this fight if he does just sit out at range, make it super boring, and low kick, and only low kick. But I think he's going to be taking more risks, and I think that Magomed Ankalaev is going to look really good, and I think he actually is probably the uncrowned champ in that division because he did beat Jan Blachowicz. He outstruck him in the first round and clearly won the last two. Jan Blachowicz didn't get a 10-8. So, yeah, this guy should literally be the champ. Not the biggest fan of Magomed Ankalaev. I'm just trying to be as unbiased as possible. I don't see Johnny Walker being on his level. I just don't. I think he's going to look good against an old Anthony Smith, but he's going to play it safe. And I don't think he's going to be able to play it safe with someone like Magomed, who's going to give him so much more to think about. He's going to be moving around a lot more, who's just better everywhere. So let's get on to the next fight. Kamaru Usman, Khamzat Chimaev. There was a time when Tyron Woodley's takedown defense was talked about as being on another level. You guys remember this? Tyron Woodley's got some of the best takedowns defense ever going into his fight with Usman, and then Usman fucking ragdolled him. Khamzat Chimaev is finishing ranked opponents in the matter of minutes. We've literally never seen this before. He is a massive human being. His level of speed when it comes to closing the distance is off the charts. And if there's anyone strong enough to do it, it's him. And I think that if he has this threat of the takedown looming over Usman as well, Usman knows he can get submitted. It's happened in the past. He's expecting this to happen. That's going to open up the striking for Khamzat. And I feel like if Khamzat can hurt Usman, he's jumping on a sub. I just don't see Usman getting out of a really bad position with Khamzat Chimaev. He's going to have to survive in order to win this fight. And I just don't see him surviving that first round. I think Khamzat's going to get him out of there. And I think we're going to see a much better version of Khamzat Chimaev, a much smarter, more calculated version of Khamzat Chimaev. I'm not saying he's going to start slow and feel it out with Usman. I don't think he's going to give Usman that opportunity. I just think that when he's got a hold of Usman, I don't think he's going to have as much urgency or of a rush to get Usman down as soon as possible. I think he's going to get a hold of him, feel where Usman's strength is at, and go from there and slowly but surely break him down in the grappling. And if Usman is able to stuff that takedown on the feet, I don't see Khamzat Chimaev rushing. I don't. I see him being patient. He knows he has the power advantage. And I think he's going to crack Usman if that happens. And I think he jumps on a submission, man. I just see Khamzat finishing this guy. So despite the takedown defense of Usman, I just think that there are chinks in the armor. I just do. You know what I mean? Woodley, again, everyone talked about him as being one of the most defensively sound wrestlers. Just no one can out-grapple this guy. That's why he's a brick wall. You know, he decides whether it's on the ground or standing, and then all of a sudden, he's getting taken down by Burns. He's getting taken down and sub by Luque, and you know what I mean? He's getting taken down left and right by Colby. I don't think people are just going to start taking down Usman like they did to Woodley, but I think Khamzat's going to be the one to get him down there and make something happen and control him. So I'm going to go with Khamzat, first round submission. Let's get on to the main event. Volkanovski, Islam Makhachev. Man, how can you not listen to a Volk interview or watch this guy train and doubt him? Like, it's hard to doubt Volk because we know how good he is. Every time I watch Alexander Volkanovski, I'm reminded that we're literally watching the best fighter to ever do it skill-wise. His last 3 performances have been on another level. And I think his distance management is going to be better than ever. And I think that he's not going to be focusing as much on the submission threat and the finishing threat on the ground. Rather, he's going to be focusing on how to get out of those bad positions, how to get out of a body lock. And he's got a chance to make this look somewhat easy because if he finishes it early, it's going to make it look easy. I think that Makhachev's going to get better. I think that Makhachev's got a very simple path to victory, and that is to stay reserved. People say this horseshit like Volkanovski lost 24 minutes. It couldn't be further from the truth. Actually, Volkanovski won more minutes of their first fight. Won more minutes outside of the back take. All right. If you're actually going to tally up the minutes where Volkanovski was kind of controlling things, I'd give the edge to him. It's just that Makhachev was stealing rounds with big moments. All right, Makhachev doesn't have to do a whole lot to win a round. He's got to hurt Volkanovski. And when Volkanovski's got to close the distance, and you've got that nasty left hand, and you've got a good clinch game, and you can get a hold of him, Makhachev is always going to land the more impactful shots. And I think that one thing that he's going to do more in this fight, I think he's going to kick Volkanovski more, because when he watches that fight back, and I was actually watching Demetrius Johnson's recap of this fight, which was really interesting, just hearing his take on every single round. He was playing the full thing on his YouTube channel and reacting to it. He actually thought it should have been a draw. He was talking about how that kick from Makhachev's there all day, that there's nothing Volkanovski could do to counter it. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about that long, rangy left rear kick of Islam Makhachev. And I think he's going to be kicking Volk more to keep him at distance. I think he's going to play this one safe early on. Maybe he's going to try to get a hold of Volk and take the wind out of his sails early to slow him down. And I just think the MMA gods are too cruel to give this one to Volk. All right? I think Makhachev's going to get this one done. I think he's just got the perfect style to shut down Volk. Even though, again, every time I watch Volkanovski, I'm impressed and I'm proved wrong in some way. Makhachev's just bigger. He's got a longer, rangier style. I know Volk has the reach advantage, but it certainly didn't feel like that. Volkanovski had to close the distance. And Volk's got to work hard, and he's got to put this man out, and I just don't see him knocking him out. I think Makhachev's got a better skill set to win rounds here. And I think he's going to be stronger than ever, and Volk's going to be weaker than ever. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm going with Makhachev to win this fight by like 3rd or 4th round TKO. I think he's going to put Volkanovski out. I think he's going to knock him out. So, yeah, we've got a couple more days, guys, until Volkanovski's career trajectory is on a downward spiral, which is unfortunate. I'll be pulling for him. I'll be rooting for him. I don't see him getting it done. I don't. Like, there's a chance, but there's always like a vision that I have. I could maybe see him getting it done by KO, but I just think it's unlikely. Makhachev's so defensively sound. And he's very reserved in his approach, and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And I don't like this injury that Volkanovski has going into it. I hope he gets it done. I really do, but I think the MMA gods are too cruel. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time. What's up? You guys know that I love fitness. You know that I love working out, but I'm here to address the people that are brand new to the gym, or maybe you're interested in getting started, but you may not know where the heck to start. You may not know what kind of exercises to use and what order to put them in. And I'm here to help you. I have a novice lifting program to help you take advantage of the first 6 months to a year of lifting. And in this novice lifting program, you're going to have progression. So every few weeks, there are going to be new things added to your program as your body adapts to it. And I also have a series of videos included in this program to walk you through it step by step, so I can teach you guys principles of strength gain. Again, if you're a beginner in the gym and you want to take advantage of this time period in which you're brand new, make sure to check out my novice lifting program. And for a discount, use code MMA. The link is in my description.